The Supreme Court has come down hard on telecom operators and the government for not honoring the deadline it had set for the companies to pay up the adjusted gross revenues due to the government. First, let's get in my colleague Arpan Chaturvedi, who joins in a moments from now to talk about what happened in the court. But I think we also have Mr. Sanjay Kapoor on the phone line, so it will be important to get a perspective from him as well. Sanjay, good morning. Thanks for taking the time out. Sharp commentary from the Supreme Court on the AGR matter, even though there is no final decision as yet. Would you view this as a setback for the telcos?
Of course. We all know that how important was this relief for the survival of some and, being healthily competitive for others. So I think, with this order, the least the DOT will do now is expedite the collection matter and put a lot of pressure on the dues, which the operators owe to them. And therefore, if that gets expedited, we know that one company has already, raised enough alarms to say they don't have enough ammunition to survive, and it will make life very difficult. And one will watch very closely how are they going to fund it and what will happen to the business continuity. The other one might be well funded, but we have to realize that a lot of money which would have gone into creating customer experience will now actually get into, paying government dues, which has no real returns for the company. And when you read the comments on 5G, all operators are shirking away from entering 5G because that's a big boy's game. You need 100 megs of spectrum to do it. If you have to pay 50,000 crores for that and then deploy a whole lot of technology to actually roll out those services, where is that money going to come from? And the dilemma here is that if you miss the 5G, sort of play, then for you to get into 6G at a much later stage is going to be virtually impossible. How will you catch up? So I think it's a catch-22 for the operators. At one end, they have to pay this money if they have to survive. On the other hand, how do they build a model which is going to ensure business continuity and profitability for them to sustain themselves and also offer customer experience that you and me can run our businesses and life on? So it's a sad state, I guess.
Yeah, well, keep in mind that all the money has to be deposited before the next hearing on 16th of March. Wonder what this does to the fisc numbers and what could happen to bonds and all of that too. But Sanjay, again, we know legal experts, maybe a lawyer will get in at some point of time would be better placed to talk about this. But if indeed the verdict has been that go out and deposit all the monies that you owe before the next hearing, it seems very difficult to believe that the decisions would be to first go and deposit all the money and then give them a reprieve of a larger magnitude, even if some small reprieves may be given. Would you go as far as assume that or wait for the verdict on the 16th March?
Yeah, I'll wait. I don't think we should jump the gun right now. I think the first issue is how our operator is going to pay the dues. Of course, Airtel should be able to do it because they've raised enough capital. They're being raised to $50 million, I read in the newspaper this morning. So I think they should be fine. But fine from meeting the deadline, I'm sure they're not happy about giving this money away into absolutely an unpredictable, investment area for them, which virtually will have no return for them. So I guess let's wait and watch till 16th and then take a call.
I'm sure all of us are interested in knowing what exactly transpired at the court as well, and I'm also told that Sanjay Ashar is also with us. And Sanjay, thanks for joining in. But first, let me go across, as I said, to my colleague Arpan, because he would give us a synopsis of what happened. He was at the moment. Arpan, fill us in on the details.
That's right. Yes. So basically, in this case, if you remember, in October, the court had passed the order, the first judgment in the AGR case. And at that time, the court had given 3-month deadline, which was January 23rd. And the companies had approached in a review petition, which is the normal procedure, and that too was dismissed. The deadline was to expire. Now, after that, the companies moved the court, seeking permission from the court to sort of negotiate the payment schedule with the DOT. And on the other side, the DOT had passed an order saying that, or a direction saying that no action should be taken until this case is pending, or these petitions were pending in the court. And the Supreme Court's main anger today was directed.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to know, Arpan.
Order that had come, Justice Mishra said that in a way that the Department of Telecom is staying a Supreme Court judgment which they said will not be tolerated. After that, of course, Justice Mishra has issued notice to all the telecom companies and asked their directors to come and explain why contempt notice shouldn't be initiated, as well as one of the key things is Justice Mishra also today said that this DOT order which stops coercive action against the telcos must be withdrawn within 1 hour. So we can expect the DOT take back its order by today itself as after the order from the Supreme Court.
Okay, Sanjay Asher of Crawford Bailey and Company is also on the phone line with us. Mr. Asher, thanks for joining in. What do you make of the words? I mean, very strong and sharp commentary, and the fact that the Supreme Court has gone ahead and said that they would like to know which DOT official has the audacity to, not follow what a Supreme Court has given in terms of an order. But no final hearing as yet today. The final hearing may be slated for the 16th of March. What do you make of the developments today?
No, the DOT will certainly have to make out a case as to why have they taken this particular steps. It can't be that they just take a very drastic step without understanding as to what the order was and what the ground reality is. So, of course, one will have to wait until 16th of March until the final order comes. But the fact that Supreme Court has made these observations and have asked their DOT officers to state as to why did they issue such an letter asking all the telecom companies and its directors to show cause.
Yeah, it is. Sanjay, Sanjay Kapoor is also with us, but Mr. Asher, first question to you. We were just contemplating, I know it's foolhardy to jump the gun, but an order of this nature which asks the telcos to deposit all the dues that are there before the next hearing seems to be as worse as it can get. Of course, we do not have the final hearing as yet, but in the wake of the fact that, point that there is no final hearing, this is as bad as it could have gotten for the telcos, I presume.
Yeah, because before the final hearing, you can't ask them to deposit the entire money. It's ludicrous to ask for the telecom companies to deposit the entire money.
Well, now the ask that has come in from the Supreme Court, and from a telco's perspective, I think Sanjay Kapoor was saying that this is now a question of survival for some, of one at least, and a question of spending for better technology, if indeed this money is assumed as gone. Final thoughts out here. Sanjay Kapoor, to you first. I know you've spoken at length about this enough number of times in the past that spending for better technology gets affected. Anything else that you would watch out for? One of the other interesting things that has been done is that I think the Supreme Court has asked the MDs of all the telcos to be present for the next hearing.
Yeah, I mean, this doesn't have ramifications only for the two operators. It will have a ramification for the support companies as well. What happens to the tower companies? If one operator goes away, what about their viability? What will happen to the Infratel-Indus merger? What happens to the companies who went and bought towers from others with the hope to have some tenancy like American Towers and others? I think it has a much bigger ramification. It also has ramifications for the content companies, for digital services companies, because if one operator just vanishes, then the number of players left in the market and the business left in the market shrinks. It's a much bigger ramification.
It is.
And I think getting away from an oligopoly to coming down to a duopoly, presumably, is really retrograde for the consumer eventually, because the choice for consumer gets shrunk. And eventually, if there are two players left in a duopoly, then they are going to charge their pound of flesh eventually.
They are likely going to, and the presumably word is fine, but I think this certainly looks moving towards that. By the way, Sanjay Kapoor mentioned rightly about the ramifications for the others. Look at the bank nifty too, and a clutch of these banks which have telco exposures are also looking slightly vulnerable. So the likes of RBL Bank, Axis Bank, etc. have all come off, and look at the bank nifty down about 1% when the order came about and staying low. So all of these banks which have got these exposures are also looking slightly off. Mr. Asher, just one follow-up to you. I know you mentioned that it seems off that the telcos have been asked to pay all of the dues before the final hearing is done. The Supreme Court has gone ahead and said it, and therefore the companies, I believe, would have no alternative to doing that. So the companies will see this move happened. There is no other alternative to it, right?
Absolutely, there is no other alternative. One has to certainly respect the order of the Supreme Court, undoubtedly. So the telecom companies will have to deposit, but before that, if they can make an application that, look, it's going to kill, for all practical purposes, the telco companies, not only kill the telco companies, but it will have a far-reaching effect on the banks as well, from whom they will borrow this money.
Yeah, as it is showing today as well. So, well, gentlemen, all of you, thank you so much for joining and giving us that very quick perspective. Keep in mind, viewers, keep in mind that there's not a final order that has been passed. The final order comes in mid-March, but the nature of the order, the wordings, etc., suggests that it's hard time for telcos, and it's showing in the way Vodafone Idea has come off. Remember, it was up quite significantly in early morning trade, but has corrected quite viciously from those levels as well. So now down about 7%, was up about 20%, so nearly 25-27% correction in Vodafone Idea. Bharti Airtel, I don't think has reacted as adversely. In fact, in the green, about 0.5% odd. Jio, of course, not connected in any fashion whatsoever. But as Sanjay Kapoor said, if the remaining two telcos charge their pound of flesh, then it should be positive. For now, this one is just about lying flat. Thanks so much for tuning in to this broadcast.